Alright, what's going on guys? It's Liam here, and welcome back to another video on the channel, and in today's video we'll be ranking the 7 schools in Wizard101 PVE going into 2024. Now, as of right now, I have all 7 schools maxed out. Essentially, actually, that's a lie. I have 6. My life is still level 160. I did have all 7 maxed out at Novus, but point is, I've basically quested everybody to max level. I have the best pets for PvE and PvP, and I've done a lot of raids. So basically, what I'm saying is I have no life, and I am a big whiz head. So yeah, essentially, I'll be talking about what the game is like early on and what it's like in the end game for the rankings, essentially, and how much utility each school offers to the team and solo ability. So without further ado, let's get into things right away, starting off with the worst school, which I think the community unanimously, what the fuck am I saying, agrees on, and that's Ice. Now, Ice is bad in PvE because it hasn't really gotten any love or support over the years. The best thing we've seen is recently in the Wallaroo update, you got a new 5 pip AoE you can cast on turn 1 to replace Reindeer Knight, which is Count Crocula. Now, this is good for Ice. I'm happy they got it. Every school got a pretty good first round AoE in general though, but I think this really helped out Ice the most, and like maybe Storm. The Storm card is really cracked and very good. But early game, Ice has very low accuracy and not really a lot of access to buffs. You don't get your first Ice Blade until level 38 on the spell quest. So it's really rough to solo quest Ice. You don't really have good cards to offer to the team early on either. You fizzle a lot and it's just not really good. Later on into the game, you have a couple more utilities, like Legion Shield, which is probably the only good card Ice has, I would argue, for team play and basically school identity and utilities. So that's a little unfortunate to see, but you just really don't do a lot of damage with your AoEs. Your stats aren't that amazing. You don't offer a lot to the team besides Legion Shield, and there's basically better schools to play, like maybe Balance or Death, that offer way more utility with better stats and obviously better AoEs. So for that reason, I think Ice is just really bad and deserving of the last place spot right now in the PvE tier list. Next up on the list, I think I'm going to have to put Balance. Now, I don't think Balance is a bad school in PvE. I think it's one of the best supporting schools, if not the best supporting school in the game. You could argue Death or Balance are the best at like buffing and supporting, but the reason I put Balance down here is simply because you're kind of forced into being like a buff machine with Blade Storm, Balance Blade, Elemental Trap, Hex, right? That kind of thing. Your hits aren't really that good. Sure, they might be cool, like Hydra, Mana Burn, Nested Fury, Raw. They're cool, but that doesn't really mean they're good for solo questing or just lethality in general in the game. Early game Balance, personally, I had a lot of fun on. I don't think it's amazing. Late game Balance feels like a chore questing, but it's a little bit challenging. And obviously, if you have a questing buddy at any point in the game, it basically enables you to be, like I said, a buff machine, which I think is the best spot and the best way to play Balance, essentially, is just to be a buff machine and quest with a buddy, and you just buff all the time. So I think this school is just very limited in terms of playstyles. There's not really a point to play Balance. You just play a different school and get more value if you want to hit or solo or play offensive. But if you want to play a school that's very supportive, I think Balance is really good and, you know, a very good option. Next up, I have Life. Now, I think Life is actually a very good school in PvE. However, it suffers with a lot of the issues that Ice has. Life isn't as bad because they have a little bit better stats than Ice. Also, they can heal with like Satyr and stuff like that. I'm well aware that other schools can with the Arch Mastery update, but Life just does it better. You can get like 200 outgoing, or I don't even know what the number is nowadays. I don't really Jade in PVE anymore. I left that behind in like 2021, you know? But yeah, the reason I have it low is because it has the same issues as Ice, where you just don't really do a lot of damage. You do have Rat Spin, which is really good. That's something Ice does not have, which is why it's higher in the tier list. Also, your heals are incredible, and Force Lord is way better than Frost Giant as well. The reason I don't have it higher in this tier list is simply because Life can only support with healing, and as much as you might like healing and the next person might like healing, there are better utilities to have in the game for team play, like a death, like a balance, right? Whether you're V-plaguing, bad juju, those things are just better, and the healing on Life is a little bit situational in, you know, a utility aspect and a team play aspect. There are some fights like the End of Caramel and the Gobbler fight where you literally have to heal and stuff like that. And with raids, it's very helpful to have a life in there. So there are some spots in the game where you kind of need a life to be there, but it's not really like a must-have. It's not like really a good pick. Yeah, you can make it work. Yeah, it's not bad, but I think there's better schools that fill the support utility role. And obviously the damage output is just really weak, so you're better off, again, playing another school if you want to hit or do utility. But Life is not bad if you just want to heal and have a very casual experience in the game. Next up, I'm going to put Myth at the number 4 spot. Now, I think Myth is actually really solid and a safe bet in PvE. They have the best 7-pip AoE, which is extremely important because basically from level 48 to level 170, you're still blading or auraing into a 7-pip AoE. And, well, Myth has the best one objectively with Orthoris. Not even Storm has this much damage per pip on their 7-pip AoE. So, yeah, it's really insane. Myth stats are incredible as of the Wallaroo update. Insane health, resist, damage, pierce, all that stuff. Really good. The only issue with Myth, I would say, really is your minion identity is kind of thrown out the window. Minions are literally unusable in PvP, they're banned, but this is PvE tier list. So PvE, they're not amazing because you're better off spending your pips either buffing up and creating more tempo to kill, you know, the PvE, the mobs or the bosses, right? If you spend pips on a minion, he could potentially screw you over if it's a cheating boss, or he might just do literally useless moves over and over and make you regret your life. And the utilities Myth has for minions are just not amazing. Some of them are okay. You have like sap power and like steal health, I guess, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just kind of a waste of time. And like I said, you're better off creating more pressure and tempo to actually end that fight quicker on a Myth. Another issue with Myth was it didn't really have a good first turn move aside from Humongo Frog and I think the Basilisk Dragoon thing. Humongo Frog is just kind of weak, obviously, at max level, especially early game, it's okay, but your next option is Dragoon, and this card takes 10 years to hit all 4 people, so it's a little annoying. But thankfully, with the Wallaroo update, we got the Drop Bear Fury, or whatever, Fury, whatever, which is a lot faster than Dragoon, does more damage than Dragoon, and you can use it on round 1, which fills in that gap of Myth not being very good on round 1 in PvE. So now it's good on round 1 in PvE, and it's really good with a 7-pip AoE, and it has good stats. So I think Myth is a safe bet. There's nothing wrong with the school, but if you're playing it for minions, you are going to be disappointed, unfortunately. Coming in at the number 3 spot, I'm going to have to put Storm. Now, I think this is going to be a hot take, but the reason I'm putting Storm this low on the tier list is because Storm is very hard to play early game. It's one of those schools where you have to have a very good understanding of the game to get any value and be a good consistent Storm. I know there's this whole meme or whatever where Storm players are like effectively brain dead or whatever, and I am a Storm main, guys. I'm the first Storm Warlord at max level Premier League, so I take that, and you know, it is what it is, right guys? But this school is really good in the meta for PvE because right now it's just buff hit. Storm obviously has the most damage and the highest damage per pip in the game. You have the best, you know, AoEs in terms of Tempest and the new Bunyip spell as well. Tempest is just always a good move. Very good. It's only not good if the boss like cheats if you cast an AoE, but 99.9% of the game, it's like the best card. Bunyip is obviously like a 5 pip Stormlord you can do on round 1, which is insane. Very cool looking card as well. And Stormlord isn't bad, but when you compare it to Orthrus, it's obviously really ass. So yeah, and then your shads like Sound and Musicology and Glowbug are really powerful for their damage per pip as well. So a lot of options on this school. Like I said, it can be a bit challenging if you're a newer player because the skill ceiling is pretty high, especially in PvP, and it can be in PvE early game with all the fizzling, and you're basically like 1 health the entire time trying to quest through the game and soloing. So yeah, I think it's just the skill school and the game right now, and it's very good and very rewarding at the end of the game for PvE at least. Okay, so I'm actually gonna tie Death and Fire because I generally don't know which one to put above the other one. Now, the reason I'm tying Death and Fire, most people are going to be like, oh, Death is the best school. And listen, I will say Death is the most accessible school, okay? It's the most like consumer friendly school. It's the easiest to solo on, the most effective to solo on. You have pretty good damage, really good stats and tankability, right? You can support if you want to. You can be a Jade if you want to. You have Feint, you have Curse, you have Dark Pact, right? You have Juju, you have V-Plague, the list goes on and on. You have Beguile as well, Deer Knight, Ship of Fools, Lulu, Scarecrow, it goes on and on. You can do anything on a Death, right? Also, in PvP, it's incredible. So, this school, basically, there's nothing it can't do. It is basically like the god of Wizard101. Okay, now the reason I have Fire up with Death for the #1 spot is simply because Scald and Incendiate. Now, if you don't know what this is, basically, right, this is a combo where if you have a full group that is in a group and they go first, they essentially can kill basically 99% of the game before the mobs even get a turn, and kill all 4 of the members in the fight right away. So I'll find some gameplay if I can of what a Scald Incendiate looks like. Basically, the Fire goes like second, and then they Scald, they get a Blade, they get a Mass Feint, and then the last guy incendiates, and it does basically around 27,000 to all 4 members in the fight on round 1 before, like I said, the mobs actually get to play their turn. It's basically really overpowered. It's banned in advanced content for PvP, for raids, for challenge mode because of how OP it is. But essentially, I think it has to be this high because if you can basically kill them before they kill you, which is kind of like the whole Storm identity, majority of the game, you can kill them before they kill you. Does it really matter if you can like drain and do all the stuff a Death can, right? If you can just literally kill them right like 10 seconds into the battle, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, right? So that's why I have it this high on the list. Also, you know, Fire has stuff like Fire Dragon, which is like I think it's like the highest the damage 7 pip AoE, but is a damage over time, which makes it worse than Orthrus, right? In terms of like feint and trap usage. So that is a thing. But Fire Dragon is pretty good when you actually look at the damage per pip and stuff like that. You have okay stats. You have the legacy set bonus that gives you a ridiculous amount of damage on the frill and the set bonus here. And then you have okay stats and some pretty cool looking cards as well on a fire. And it's a little bit easier to solo on than a storm, I would argue, because you have a bit more tankability. Like I said, you have Meteor Strike, Scald, you know, Dragon, Rain of Fire is okay as well. So even though they are dots, you do have a bit of tankability to account for the fact that you can't do as much brute force soloing as a storm can. So that's why I think fire is basically up there with death right now in terms of PvE and the meta of things. I know I might get flamed for this, but I genuinely think Scald Incendiate is just extremely, extremely broken, and like King's Isle should maybe take a look at it, you know, just maybe. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you disagree, let me know why in the comments below. What is your tier list going into 2024? Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like and a sub if you found it helpful or you enjoyed it. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching and take care.